tell you the story of how 3 years ago I had this little idea and it's turned into this movement. And I kind of can't even believe that it happened, but I'm here to share with you how it happened and then just introduce what we're going to be doing tonight. A little bit of context, and you heard a little bit in the introduction. So I live in San Diego. I'm 46 years old. I've been married for 22 years to my best friend and my business partner. I have 5 boys. So 3 are our own. We have a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 17-year-old. And then 2.5 years ago, we took in 2 brothers who are 17 and 21 that needed some help and are also amazing. So, and we have our own business. When Eric turned 30 years old, he had an early midlife crisis. He was a partner in a firm and just couldn't do it anymore, and had this idea that he wanted to try and get out there on the corporate lecture circuit and be a speaker and speak on creativity and innovation, which is ridiculous for a 30-year-old, right? But we decided, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? We're gonna go for it. So for the past 15 years, we have created this really amazing business where we get to do what we love. We share and speak on creativity and innovation on the corporate lecture circuit. We've written books, we've done films for social media. He does about 100 programs a year. I produce all of them. I tell you this to explain that just like you guys, life is very full. So I know you're all juggling a lot of things, wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of things. And so inside of this crazy life with all of these boys and all of the sports and all of the activities and all of the life, I had this idea that I thought, I wonder if this could work. So about 3 years ago, I'm sitting in our house and I have a family room full of kids, which is like, honestly, it's my joy. It's my favorite when I have just tons of kids at our house. And so they're all sitting in the living room. And I've learned, especially with boys, if you feed them, they will come. So I have an open fridge policy, an open door policy. If the doorbell rings, it's certainly FedEx. Nobody rings the doorbell at our house. It's just kids everywhere. So we're all sitting around one day, and I was just talking, and I was talking about tithe. And they were like, tithe? What's that? I said, like when you give 10% of what you make to charity. And they were like, no, they had this blank look on their faces. And I thought, okay, how am I going to explain this concept that was this gift that my parents gave to me as a child? I was brought up in this sort of sharing economy. So in my family, from as early as I can remember, my brothers and I, if we earned money, got money for a birthday, money for Christmas, 10% of that money went immediately into the tithe account, and 25% had to go into savings. From as early as I can remember. It was never even an option. So if I wanted to buy a $3 kite when I was 8 years old, I knew I had to earn $4 to be able to buy that kite, because it was going to take that extra money to put into savings and tithe. And when the tithe account got big enough, my dad would sit us down and he'd say, okay, where do you guys want to give this money? What do you think you want to give to? And so we'd kind of talk about it and come up with where we thought it would be a good place to share this money with other people. As a teenager, I did not like this. I balked against it. And I would get my paychecks and my dad's like, where's the 10%? Where's the 25%? I was like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm 15. And he's like, you're living under my roof. So I give this money to tithe and to savings. It drove me crazy. But a funny thing happened when I got to college. It was so innately woven into me that when I got my first paycheck and I got to do whatever the heck I wanted to do with it, I wanted to give that 10% away to someone who needed it more than I did. I still got to keep 90%. It really didn't feel like that big of a deal to me. I wasn't as good at the savings in college, but I did do the tithe. And it was almost a joy. It felt like a joy and a responsibility to be able to do that. So back to the family room where I'm sitting with these kids, and I'm like, how do I explain to these Gen Xers, like, I said, okay, if I gave one of you 10 cookies, and I said, would you give one cookie to someone who doesn't have any cookies, would you do it? And they were like, yeah, I'd give a cookie to them, that's no big deal. I said, okay, if I gave you $10, would you give $1 to someone who doesn't have $1? And they were like, yeah, okay, I'd give $1. And then one kid he's always like, you know, the peanut gallery. He's like, well, $1 not gonna do anything. Like, what are you gonna do with $1? I said, okay, that's fair. Like, that's a really good point. So hypothetically, what if I gave each of you $100? What would you do? But you can't keep the $100. You have to give the $100 away to somebody or an organization that needs it. Where would you give that $100, hypothetically? And they started talking, and they really didn't know. Well, I don't know. Like, they hadn't really thought about it. And I said, okay, let's go around, and I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions. What lights you up? So what makes you so happy that you have to do it? You don't feel like you're working, you don't feel like you love doing this thing. And what breaks your heart? So in essence, like, what's something in the world that's so wrong with the world that you have to fix it? Like, that is not okay with you. What are those 2 things? So we went around the room and we talked about that. And I'm telling you, that was the coolest 20 minutes, listening to them, what lights them up and what breaks their heart. I learned so much about each one of them as I was listening to them. So we came up with a couple different ways. One of the girls' grandma was dying of leukemia, and so she wanted to give the money to cancer research. Awesome. Another kid said, there's this guy on my soccer team, he's on scholarship, and he needs new cleats, and he can never afford them, and his toes are like busting out of these cleats, and I would love to get him new cleats. And another kid said, it makes me so sad that dogs are put to sleep in the shelters because people don't adopt them. So he wanted to give his money to an adoption program. So a couple weeks go by, and I just couldn't stop thinking about these amazing things that these kids had come up with and how they wanted to give this money away, but they didn't have the money. And I was thinking, I wonder if there's a way I could help them give the money. I mean, I'm gonna tithe 10% of what we make, so I could figure out a way to like share and help them give it. But I wanted them to be involved in it. I just want to give them the money to give away, because then they're not, I wanted it to be something they were actively involved in. So I'd heard of geocaching, and I thought, I wonder if I could geocache for charity. I don't know, like maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. So when I was a little girl, my dad called me Butterfly. It was his nickname for me, and I've just always had an affinity for butterflies. So I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna try this thing. So I went to Michael's and I bought these blank wood butterflies, and I painted it. So I just started, putting designs on these butterflies. And then I put instructions on the back that basically said, if you find it, text me your picture and I'm gonna donate X amount to charity. And so I took the butterfly out to our local canyons, and I climbed up a tree and I hid it up there. I was trying to do, however geocache works, I didn't know. And I took a couple pictures and I posted the clues on social media of where this butterfly was hidden. And I put them on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I just thought, well, let's just see if this works. And like a half hour later, there's a dozen people out trying to find this butterfly. It was so fun. They're texting me, can I get another clue? I'm like, no way, that's cheating. Like, just go find the butterfly. So like 15 minutes later, somebody gets the butterfly, and she texts me her picture, and she says, this is such a cool idea, I love this. And she said, I want to donate the money to the American veterans because my dad was a veteran. And she started explaining to me how much she learned about the veterans and why she wanted to help them, which I thought was super fun for me to learn about them because I didn't know, and she was excited, so I got to donate money in her name to the charity of her choice. And I thought, this is a really cool, fun way to give away money. I'm gonna do it again. So every Sunday, I would get another butterfly and I'd paint it and I'd hide it, and I'd get another and I'd hide it. And it kind of started to take off. And somehow our newspaper in San Diego got a hold of the story, and they put it in the paper, and people heard more about it. And I had people emailing me saying, can I paint a butterfly? Can I drop my own butterfly? And then I started realizing, I'm gonna do this wherever I go on tour with Eric. So he speaks, I think I said like 100 times a year, and I go in about a third of them. So in every city that we went to, I would take a butterfly and drop the butterfly. We were in Omaha, Nebraska at a program that he was doing for like 3,000 women, and he was gonna pull me up on stage to talk a little bit about butterfly effect, but something happened with the client and they had to cut him short, and he didn't have a chance to pull me up on stage, so I didn't get to explain what butterfly effect was or what a butterfly drop was to anybody. But I had brought these 3 butterflies with me, and I just kind of thought, I'm not gonna drop one. Like nobody knows what this is. It's just a waste of a butterfly. And we were getting into the Uber to go to the airport, and something was just nagging at me, like, just drop a butterfly, just throw it out there. So I don't even look at my purse. I grab the butterfly out of my purse and I throw it up on this statue outside the convention center, and I tweet the clues. And it was a purple butterfly. And so we leave, and I don't even think anything about it until we get to the next city. And I have this text from this woman named Nicole Bianchi. And I read it, and my eyes filled with tears because her story was so beautiful. She said, "Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this meant to me. Today, I won an award at this women's event, and I lost my mom to cancer 3 months ago. And I was wishing that she was with me. She would have been so proud of me. It's the kind of thing she would have always been at. And my heart was aching for her." And she said, when she was in hospice, and I was sitting holding her hand, and I said, "Mom, I'm gonna miss you so much." And her mom said, "Nicole, I'm always gonna be with you." And Nicole said, "I know, but how am I gonna know? Like, when you're not here, how am I gonna know you're with me?" And her mom said, "Just look for purple butterflies." And that day, that was the very first purple butterfly that she had seen since her mom had passed away. And at that moment, I realized this was maybe a little bit bigger than me and my story and this like crazy idea that I had. And maybe I should do something more than just be dropping butterflies. So I got a website and I built it out, and I decided to call it the butterfly effect, based on Edward Lorenz's theory, that a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the universe and then moves molecules of air that move molecules of air that move molecules of air that can cause a hurricane on the other side. I had this hope, this idea that these small acts of kindness would ripple out and affect other people to want to also be kind or give back in return. So 2 months later, I was at the American Cancer Society. Eric was speaking there, and of course I tell the Nicole Bianchi story because it's purple butterfly and cancer, and it's such a cool story. And the ladies that I was sitting in the room with, they loved the story, and one of them said, "Oh my gosh, do you think you could do some butterfly drops at our Relays for Life in 2016? And I said, "Yeah, that would be so cool. Like, how many do you think you want?" And she said, "Can you do 5,000? I was like, sure. I call my little vendor, my cute little Etsy vendor in San Diego. I'm like, "Can you make 5,000 wood butterfly wings?" Like really fast. But we figured it out, and we made 5,000 butterflies, and they did 5,000 butterfly drops at these Relay for Life events. And we came up with a little bit of a different plan for these. They were blank, so they weren't decorated, and the person that found them decorated it, and then on the back of the butterfly, they wrote their cancer story, whether they were a survivor or a caregiver, how cancer had affected them. Then they took the butterfly and they sent it back to headquarters. And then, and again, I don't know how this happened to me, but Mall of America says, "Can you do a massive installation of these 5,000 butterflies to celebrate cancer awareness?" Okay, I've never done an installation before, but yes, we'll come and do this. So these 5,000 butterflies start floating in from all over the country, and I'm reading the back of them. And these stories blew my mind. Not one person, with the exception of the children, was not grateful that they had cancer. Every single person said it changed their life for the better. Every single person said it changed their life because it slowed them down. They realized this idea of abundance, that we have these lives of abundance, but we don't stop to pay attention. We're so busy racing after things that we don't have yet, and that we still need and that we want. And we live in this kind of economy of scarcity when we can be living in an economy of sufficiency. And all that sufficiency is when we realize what we have right now. One of my mentors, Lynn Twist, says that prosperity is when you recognize the true beauty of your life exactly as it is right now. I love that. It's so beautiful. So I figured, after doing this Mall of America thing, I'm like, I really want a way to get the message out there when I'm not physically present, when I can't physically drop a butterfly. And I was trying to come up with some sort of social media play, like what could I do to share the message on a wider scale? Eric and I were on a street art tour in London a year ago, and I saw these like angel wings that some cool graffiti artist had done. And I thought, oh, do butterfly wings. I'm gonna be a graffiti artist. I'm gonna figure out how to be a street artist, because I look like a street artist, right? Like, I could do this, it's totally fine. So I call one of those kids that was in my room that first day with the whole cookie story, who's in the back of the room with me now. Her name is Sarah, and you're gonna meet her when we're doing the butterfly. And she's so shy. She's an artist, and I said, Sarah, I need to make a life-size butterfly. Can you help me? She's like, okay. So she sat down, and I wanted to put the quote that I'd been using is, be the change you want to see in the world. Gandhi's quote for butterfly effect, and just kind of inspiring other people to be the change they wanted to see. So we drew this massive butterfly, and Sarah designed it and helped put the words in it and helped pick all the right font. And then, so we have this big butterfly, but we don't know, I don't know where I'm gonna put it up. I don't know how to do graffiti. I don't have a wall. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So I called Jennifer Kauza, who is the executive director of a charter school system in San Diego, and I said, hey, Jennifer, she did butterfly drops at her school. So I said, hey, Jennifer, would you, do you have a wall that we can come and try and put this butterfly up on? And she said, a wall? I've got walls. We have tons of schools. Come put them up. So it was so nice. We had a playground to kind of play on of all these walls. So the very first one, we went and we painstakingly drew every single line of this meticulously beautiful butterfly that Sarah drew in such detail. And it took 4 days of 4 to 5 people, nonstop. And I thought, well, this is so beautiful, but there's no way it's sustainable. So over time, we came up with this concept of, what if we had a stencil? What if we sprayed the stencil? What if we used the stencil as sort of the coloring block to have people then come and paint? And it worked. And so this was only 1 year ago, and my goal was 1 a month. If I can get one of these up a month in some city around the world. And we have, today is gonna be our 63rd butterfly already, and they are all over the world. And it's so fun for me, because every day at the end of the day, I check my social media, and people in San Francisco, New York, Lugano, Switzerland, they're all in the bodies of these butterflies, hashtagging to help raise money for charity, and they're beautiful. It's so cool. And one of the things I love about doing the butterflies is every community that I do one in, the butterfly is different. It's completely unique to the community, the artist, the colors, the theme, the people. And so tonight's butterfly is really special because we're dedicating it to one of your colleagues who passed away, I think it was just last week, Bev Jones. And so we're gonna be doing the butterfly in her honor. And the money that we're gonna raise when you stand inside the butterfly and hashtag and take your picture is gonna be going towards cancer research. So I'm so excited to have you guys come up and paint tonight. And you can come paint for 5 minutes, or you can sit around and paint for 45 if you want. We're gonna finish the whole thing tonight. But before I leave and you guys are heading off for your break before dinner, I just want to ask you to think about those 2 questions that I asked those kids. What lights you up and what breaks your heart? Maybe talk about it at dinner with the people next to you. For sure, go home and ask your family that question, those questions. You will be so grateful that you did. And I think any philanthropy that we're doing, it's basically just the cultivation of something that we were put on this world to do. What is it that you're supposed to do? What is it that you need to do to make a difference in the world? What do you need to do to be the change that you want to see in the world? What's your butterfly effect? I would just ask you to think about that over dinner and tonight and over the next couple months, because I did this one tiny, small idea and it worked, and it's turned into this incredible movement. And I'm so grateful that you guys get to be a part of it tonight.